Welcome back to Arc Tutorials. This is Angular 19 complete project that I'm building using CRUD functionality. We are building an expense tracker, and so far we have made a progress. We built the mat sidebar. It's collapsible. We have the toolbar for title. We have the main content area. We generated the components. We have the routes configured. You can see this is changing. Routes are changing when I click. Today we'll go ahead and implement the CRUD functionality, the first part. Before we kickstart with coding, make sure that you get my latest book that I've published on full stack interview series. It is a must for everyone to crack any interview. It covers more than 25 technologies with over 2000 questions and answers with code snippets. Alright, as part of this series, I'm covering all the latest features of Angular 19 that you need to know: signals, standalone components, defer, routing, breakpoint observer, Angular material components, and much more. Today we are doing CRUD operation read functionality. We will build the table, Angular material table, with pagination, with number of results. With HTTP, we have used signals. For in our HTTP service, we generated standalone components and much more. Make sure that you see the entire series in order to learn and master Angular 19. Today we are doing read functionality. We will implement Angular material table, expenses, that is reading that feature, pagination, previous next button, and results per page. I hope it's exciting. Please do support. Please do show your love by hitting that like button for me. Alright, so let's start with the grid component. That's where we are going to have our um, table. This is where we'll display our table. So I'll go ahead and go to my code. Alright, I'll close everything and start again. Now we are working on the grid component. So go to the grid, and first in the grid.component.ts, let's import the mat table because that's what we'll be working with. So mat table module, import that. We will also need some more modules which are pagination, and that's for the pagination, right, that we will have to display pagination module. And we will also need the snack bar module. Let's import that. So these are all the required modules that you will need in order to display and make your UI better. So I am importing mat snack bar, and I will also import the table data source because that's something that we need. Table data source. We will also need button to show that previous next. So button module, we'll keep importing as and when we need, but these are some of the basic ones that we definitely need. So card module, this should be enough to start, and will import as we require. So I'm adding them into the list of my import handle. That's why we have to add individually. A lot of times a lot of you have written to me that why there is no standalone true here in the component, and the reason being that from Angular 19 onwards the standalone is default, so you don't have to mention that. Okay, so data source is not a module, so you don't need that mat table data source because that we will use it in the component but not in the grid. Okay, so I've imported my modules that I need. Okay, all right, so first things what we'll do, let's go and build our service that we need. Expense service is equal to, now you see we am not using constructor. Instead what I'll do is use it built in the core, which is called inject. So if you see expense service, I can inject it directly using inject method. You don't have to add a constructor then create a instance of it and all that. Same way, let's create a snack bar. This is what we will use for showing the snack bar. So I'm going to say mat snack bar, and both of them are imported. The next we'll do is first we'll list what all columns we want to show in our table. So that will be an array of strings, and add all the things that we have. It's an array, so here in the array add the column names that you have and that you can refer from the models: ID, title, category, date, amount. id title category amount date. Okay, that will be my list of columns that I will display it in the UI. Okay, next for this we'll need a data source for our table, and the data source is nothing but we will define new mat table data source, mat table data source, and the source of the data is of certain type, right? And the type is expense. That is the module that we defined. We are telling that the data that will come will be of format mat date expense type. All right. Now for the starters, what we are going to say is total count, right? Total items or total expenses that we have. You can say its number and initial value will be 0. Okay, total items initially when we launch this component it will be 0. Now page size is nothing but how many items you want to show per page in this particular grid. So let's say 10 for now. Okay, the next we'll need a view child. Now why do we need this? We need it for the mat pagination. Okay, so we are going to use mat paginator, and we'll define it as paginator, let's say, and we are going to say that what is the type of it. Its type is mat paginator. Okay, now why we need this? Okay, because it will reference to the paginator and we will have it added there. Now why is it giving error? Property has no initializer. Okay, that's fine. We can go ahead. Paginator view child accepts view. Did you mean to call it first? um, let's check this, or I'm going to add just an exclamation to solve this one. For this we are using view, oh, because I've used wrong, so it's capital view child, not the small v. Okay, so this is good. All right, then we are going to read our expenses through the signal. Okay, now for signal I'm going to use the service that we created, expense service dot. Now you see expenses is a signal. I'm not using a method, it's a signal. If you go here and see, it returns you this dot express expense signal, which is just a function, but you're calling it this way. Now let's create our constructor, and what we'll do is inside the constructor I'm going to initialize and do a, let's say, get expenses. So this will get me, it will make the API call, get all the expenses, set the signal, and our data is reading that signal. Very important concept. If you are new here, understand what is this is doing. It will make an HTTP call to our localhost 3000, get the expenses, and once you get that expenses, what we are doing is we are setting the value of the signal. So here if you see, expense signal is a signal which is what we will be consuming, and we are setting it as an array, and once that is set you are just reading it, and automatically this will be updated when this call happens. I hope this is clear. Make sure that you go through it. One other important Angular 19 feature that I'm showing you is the effect. Now what this means is that every time there is a change you will be triggering this. So I'm going to use a local variable, and this dot expenses will be set here, and then we'll say this dot data source dot data equal to expenses. I'm setting that data every time it changes, and then we can take the total count and we can just say expenses dot length. So that's all we need in order to set up and fire in the data in the table. So once again, go through this code. What this is doing is I have initialized all the things that are needed for Angular table, material table. This is the important line. I'm reading the data through an expense. In the constructor, I'm making the get call. What it does is it will get the data, set it in the service, the expenses, and it will keep getting it every time there is a change or any time that changes. That is all you need at this time, and we'll add other things like paginator and those things, but for now let's go to our template and work on the table now. I hope you have got it so far here. Pause the video if you want and work on it. So let's create a matte card, beautiful card, where we can show the data, and this will be header and matte card. These are standard defined components in Angular material card, so you should see it as it is. Okay, card content, and here we'll say expense grid, and save, and let's go and run it and go to the dashboard, and we are not seeing anything because it's a list and not a grid. So let's correct that. Here in the app component it should be slash dashboard, which is correct. In the routes, let's check what is it we have given. We have given dashboard, that's also correct. So it should have ideally got us to the dashboard. Let's type it here, dashboard, and we are not seeing anything because looks like there is an error. Let's check what is the error. So it says circular dependency service HTTP client. This is a very important error that you will see in Angular 19. The error says no provider for HTTP. This is the error you will get in Angular 19. Okay, and I'll tell you the fix too. The problem is that by default it is not included. Okay, that's where you will see this error. So we need to update our main config in order to fix that error. Okay, so for that what we need to do is go to the main component, the main config basically, and add it as a default provider across the application. Take a look at the error message again, because this is something that you will run into quite often. The error says no provider for HTTP. Till Angular previous versions, you were directly doing it by writing HTTP client module. There is no client module. Remember that. Let me make a note for you so that you don't miss it. There is no HTTP client module anymore. Very important, because a lot of people will still be adding that and they'll see error. Let me show you that. The idea that I want to show you is how to see the errors, right? When you type HTTP client, client is already included. Okay, you don't need the client here, but in the service if you go and add HTTP client module, see what happens. You see that client module has been deprecated. So there is no more client module. So how do we solve this problem? For that, you'll have to go to your main.ts. You will see app config, click on it, go to that. In the providers, at the end, you will have to write an entry for HTTP. So you will write provide HTTP client. Now this is where you're telling your application that I'm providing HTTP client. And now you should not see that error. Okay, now if I go to my dashboard, I should not see that error. Okay, so you can see expense grid is here, cart content is there. Now let's go ahead and check the network call to see whether data is firing for expense. So it made a call 200 OK, and we got the response. So three things, important thing: we are making a HTTP call, we are getting data from the backend, and we have done the provide HTTP client in main config, app config. If you don't do this, you will run into errors. Make sure that you get that correct. Alright, back to the TS file, back to our template where so we are now getting the data in the template. We have made a call, we are getting data. Now let's add the other template, which is for the tables, displaying the table and setting it right. So I'm going to type table, and I'm saying that it's a mat table, and then we need to specify the data source, and you will specify that as saying that it's a data source because that's what we have added in our component.ts. Let's check the name once again to get it correct. It's data capital S source. Make sure you give the same. Alright, now that is done, you can also style it little bit. We'll use some styling. So I'm going to say expense table and close the table. This is the basic thing that you will need. The next, now let's map the column names. So for that we'll write ng container. This will be a standard template. If you get one correct, you can just do copy paste. You will say mat column definition. That means you're defining what type it will map to, and then you will write the regular th code, that is nothing but your heading. So mat header cell, and you will also specify which column you want to map. So you'll write asterisk map header cell definition. That means you're telling it that map it with which one when it finds it. So you will map it with id, and last you will do is the cell data for it. So you will write mat hyphen cell, and here you are going to define and say that what data that you will work with. Okay, so you are going to say, since you're getting the data as expense, you will say let expense and close it here, and your, oh sorry, I forgot to add this definition, which is mat. um, so one is the header def, one is the cell def. That means this is the heading, this is the data. Okay, so now we are saying let expense. Now inside this we will write, using the interpolation, we are writing expense dot id. So what this will do is it will bring in, this is the heading, this is the data that we are getting from the data source. The data source has expense list. We are taking that one at a time and looping it. So we are not seeing that expense grid. Let's see why, and we'll debug. Alright, so this is good so far. Now let's go ahead and check why the data is not coming. In the console log it says missing definitions for header, footer and row, cannot determine which columns should be rendered. Okay, so it's not getting the context here. So for that, let's go back to our component and check the id, title, category, amount. Now for, I'm going to copy paste it couple of times the same thing, because to map the same table. And let's see what it is here. Here I'm going to add title, copy it, expense dot title, and then the next one is category, copy that, paste it here, and then we have amount and expense dot amount. Here we are going to add date, and here we are going to add date. So now we have all the columns, but still it is not showing. So we will now do some console logging to see that. It says missing definitions for header, footer and row, cannot determine which columns to be rendered. You get this error when there is a difference or in mapping the table. So let's go here, id, title, category, amount and date. That's what we are getting. And for starters, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a console log dot expenses. This will tell us the data we have received, or not here, sorry, it won't know because it's outside. So here, and what I can do is in the effects, once this is done, console log this dot data source and see what data we are getting. So we are getting the mat table data source, we have the pagination data, filtered data, we see that there is data. Okay, filtered data, you see the array, title, category, food and amount, date. Okay, so that means our data is correct, we have got the data. Let's check why it's not getting mapped. So I'm going to go ahead and review the code that we have in template first. This is how you debug. So you check for ng container, we got that. ng container is good. Then we have the mat column definition, which is mat column, that is correct. And then we have the id, which is nothing but the id of the data source, and we got our data source correct. And we have our mat header cell, which is correct. And then we have got asterisk mat header cell definition, that is correct. Now we have the mat cell def let expense, so that is the expense that we are looping, and we are printing it. So this looks alright to me. And now at the end, what we need to do is to define the header and the column, okay, because we missed out that we have created the columns correctly, but what happens is after this you'll have to specify the table row, where we will define that mat header row, and we will have to add mat header row definition. These are standard names, so once you type couple of times you will get used to it. So this is where we are telling what columns to map. See, this is the same name that we have here in the displayed columns here in line number 22. So we are telling that loop each of the rows, okay, and then we will say for table data, right? So tr here we'll say mat row. For each row, what you will do, mat row definition is equal to, we are now looping it here, okay, let row, and then we are saying columns is displayed columns, okay. So that should ideally solve what the problem we were seeing, because now we are providing the header and the footer. So now you see it is coming up as a grid. So that was the missing piece. So we have the title, we have the table that is looping, okay. All right, so now let's add some buttons, edit and delete button. What that would do is ng container, we'll have a container. Now inside the container we are going to define the column name. So again you will write mat column definition, and here you'll write actions. We need to add it in our component. Again same drill, copy this. If you are not, if you don't want to retype everything, but for you I'm retyping. And here I'm going to say mat header cell def. So now we are telling that this is the definition, and actions will be the header, and next will be the td. It will be a mat cell asterisk mat cell definition equal to let expense, and then here we are going to add the two buttons that we need, which is nothing but the edit and the delete. So we'll do button, and we can call it mat button. And then, and what type of button, let's say we are going to use a flat button, and we are going to give a color, give any color that you want. This is built in of Angular material. So router link, now I'm dynamically binding a router link, and here I'm going to specify the path, and the first will be slash edit. That means it has to go to edit, and slash followed by the expense dot id, that will be the value in that edit, okay. I hope it's clear. And inside this I'll add edit. You can copy the same button, paste it again, change the path and make it delete, and this will become delete. This will not work because now we need to add this into our list of displayed columns at the end in the component. So we got the actions, and now it says there is an error. Let's check. Can't bind router link, because now that we have used router link, we'll have to import router module. It's pretty simple, guys. I don't know, a lot of you think that it's a lot of code. It's not actually. It's pretty straightforward, simple, at least that's what I look at it. So now we get two buttons, edit and delete buttons, and what I'm going to do is, instead of primary for delete, let's use one, so that way um, or I think it's danger. No, it's not. Color warning. I forgot the class name, but that's fine. That we can give any class name we want with through a thing and customize this. For now, let's just stick to this. Okay, so we got the toggling. We have the dashboard which is showing the table data, and we have these buttons. And now what we are going to do is add the pagination. Okay, again for pagination we'll have to do little different. um, in this what we'll do is we'll add the paginator basically that we are already using. So at the end of this mat card, what I'm going to do is create a new card actions, right? Before I after the mat card content, I'm going to say mat card actions. That's again a built-in one for the mapping the any actions we want to use. So I'm going to say card actions, and here we are going to use the mat paginator that is used for pagination. So we are going to use mat paginator, close it. We'll pass params to it, like what is the length that we want, and this would be equal to total items that we have tracking. That is already defined here. If you see, initial value will be 0. Total items initial value is 0, but once you get the data we are repopulating it at line number 41. So now we should see the data here once data is loaded. So that is one. Then we are going to define other options like page size. And what would be the page size? I think we already defined it as page size equal to 10. So now page size options, this is another attribute it will take. This will be an array where you will mention 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever values you want to define as part of the drop down. Okay, and then let me break it down so you can read it completely. So we have defined the page size, page options, and last, what should happen whenever the page number changes, right? So we'll write on page change. Okay, let's pass that event, and what we will do, this is not defined so it will give error. Let's go ahead, define that function, and we are saying what should happen on page change. Here what we will do is we'll just re-trigger it. Okay, rebuild the page. So I'm saying page dot size is equal to event dot page. Okay, this takes an event that we are passing. Okay, and let's for now call it any. And now if you type dot page size, okay, that should be fine. And then I'm also going to set the data source dot paginator is equal to this dot paginator. That means whatever number user is giving, we are resetting it. Now let's go back. Now you see it shows 1 of 5, and we have the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, now alright, so let's go ahead and test it with a lot of data. So what I'm going to do is just copy these data as it is for now. I don't want to waste your time. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm going to paste it again so that we can test that functionality of pagination filtering. Alright, now let's go ahead, refresh the page. Now we are seeing so many, correct? It should not, because ideally we should see only 10. So what we will do is we need to do it in on ng after page init. Also we need to trigger the, so ng after view init, that's an inbuilt lifecycle hook for the component. So I'm going to say this dot data source dot paginator is equal to this dot paginator. That means whatever value user selected, we will set it to that. Okay, so hopefully now when I refresh, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I'm seeing 10, but it's saying 11. Maybe some numbering issue. Yeah, here you see there is no 5, so it's actually showing 10. Okay, so now next page is also available. Previous page is ready. This is looking good so far with respect to functionality. What I want is let's push it towards the right side. Okay, usually when you see pagination, it will always be towards the end, right? At least that's what I have seen. So we can push it to the right side, and let's go ahead. We have already given a class called card actions. Go to CSS, add card actions, say display flex, and then what we'll do, we'll simply just say justify content towards flex end. So now it would be pushed towards the end. Okay, now this thing is not taking the 100%, so what we'll do is mat paginator card actions. Let's make it responsive, and let's check that once the paginator is here, and I'm going to say width 100% to see if, yeah, so we need to add that to mat paginator. Okay, so I'm going to go to the template mat paginator, and here I'm going to give mat paginator and in the class I'm going to write mat paginator width 100%. Now let's see. So now this entire thing is 100%. Now I select 5 records. I see only 5. 10 count is correct, and then again it shows the remaining 3. That's awesome. Alright, so now let's make it a little bit more jazzy with the buttons and everything. So let's go back to the button and give a class to it. Class edit btn, copy it, paste it on the delete btn, and here I'll go edit btn and dot delete btn, background color light red or coral. Let's see if this looks good. So now this looks a delete button. For the edit again you can give something similar. Let's not waste time on it for you, but let's see aqua if this looks bad. Alright, blue, sky blue should be fine. Alright, I'll let you pick up the color of the background for the edit, but I think there should, there is an error. So for now, or since you guys are asking, let's do one thing and make it a black color. Okay, so edit and delete we got toggling, we got our this thing. We want to style the header. That's the last thing today we'll do. It's a lot of code, I do understand, but like I said, make sure that you pause the video, go through it. I have done this many times, so you would definitely see a difference in my coding. I might be fast, that's because I'm doing it from Angular version 2 onwards, so you can imagine that um, how much I have spent time in doing that. All right, but still, again, this is all new. It's not like it's something that people get it in first go. Even things change, and I try to keep up to date. All right, so we got the header, which is also in the same color as the sidebar, and maybe we can make the color white so that way it's readable. So you can see here ID. So now it's printing ID for everything because we copy pasted. That's the problem with copy paste. ID, this is amount, this is a date. That should be good. Now you see we can also style the card header by giving some nice styling to it and make it look jazzy. Okay, so we are going to use mat card title, and have this expense grid right inside it here. So looks good, and maybe we'll give a class and say card title, and in the card title I'm going to add some padding at the bottom, say 20 pixel, so that way there is some gap between these two. And now the task is complete. We wanted to build an Angular table, which we did. We wanted to get the data dynamically from our API, which is what we are doing, read functionality. We have the items per page that is set up as part of the Angular mat paginator. We also have the count that we are displaying, and next and previous is working. Toggling is fine. Navigation still works. Alright, so this completes our grid part. In the next episode, we will start working on edit and add functionality. We will use the form builder to build the dynamic form and modify it. We also need a route for edit, that also will add it in the next episode. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying. I hope you're learning. We will get together and make the Angular 19 the best tutorial possible. Please do hit that like button if you're enjoying this series, and please continue to support me. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode. We will do add edit functionality. Thank you.